Hey, it's Tori, and welcome back to my channel. Today we welcome two Lewis and Henry from Alien Weaponry to the channel. How are you guys doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having
Yeah, not
us.
too bad.
Good, good. You guys just got done doing, filling a support slot for Kerry King on their North American tour. How was that for you all?
Was
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, it
it
was.
was it
Yeah?
was super cool. He's a what we've been saying in all these interviews is he has been touring longer than any of us have been alive. And I think Henry said once, like almost all of our ages combined, It's like so the experience that someone like that has in this industry is sort of, astronomical really. And so it's a great opportunity to sit on the sidelines and learn not only from him and his band, but of course his crew have also a lot of them have toured and worked with him for many, many years. And we were fortunate enough to be able to share some of that crew and learned a lot of things that we were able to bring home to either for ourselves or for our crew. And when we get to work with our usual crew again, so much awesome things to learn. And it was kind of special too, because unlike some tours where agents and management just sort the bands out themselves, Kerry had heard us on Sirius XM, he said, and he'd actually like purposefully invited us to be on tour with him. So that was also an honor.
Yeah, that's awesome. By the time I found out that you guys were over here in the States, it was too late for me to come and see you because I would have loved to. But I think the closest one was also like about a 5 hour drive for me. But I mean, I would have made it anyway. But hopefully next time you guys are over here, I'll be able to come and see you. Of course, the reason you guys are here is because you have your brand new album, Tura, which is out on March 28th via Napalm Records. You've already had a couple of singles out already. How have you found the response from your fan base or from people who may just be finding you as a band during this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. And I mean, I
You know,
saw your reaction video to
Oh,
Mo Moko, so I think we saw it was like showed up on Instagram, I'm pretty sure. And which led me to YouTube. But all that stuff, I quite like to watch the reaction videos just to see what people are sort of how they're feeling about it. And the comments response has been great so far. And it's you can be a little nervous. Some of it is on my end was like this is the first album that I've written a lot of songs for, and these first singles have been songs that the first one was a song that I wrote, and I was like, oh God, people gonna or they're gonna be like the last album, and they're gonna be like, oh my God, this new bass player is ruining it all, and I was like, oh. He's this terrible bass player or whatever. I was like, oh no, no, no. So I was like a little nervous going into it. And but so far, the response has been great. And we're like really excited, I think, then for people to get their hands on the full package because they've only heard two songs so far and it's already been good. So there's a lot of songs that aren't single songs according to labels that we love. So we're like, God, we can't wait till they get stuck into the real juicy stuff.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because I feel like, with the label and then of course choosing the singles, that's also got to be difficult. And then people actually go into the album and it's like, whoa, wait, there's also this kind of stuff on here too. And it's just like you said, just getting stuck into the full album is going to be amazing. The two songs that I've heard so far, I mean, you saw my reaction to the first one, and that section where it's kind of like the haka, if you will, and it comes in and it's just so incredibly powerful for me. There's just something special about that and about that in sorry if I'm butchering these pronunciations, but the Maori culture, it's, I don't know what it is. There's just something so magnetic about it that I'm really glad that you guys are bringing that culture into your music and putting it out, like spreading it out further into the world via this art form.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you. Um, yeah, and really it's obviously it's something that we tried years ago, but obviously works, right? Like when we sing in Māori, it seems to uh, incite this reaction in people that is not always explainable. And even for us, like sometimes we're kind of dumbfounded by the fact that people have, opened up and been able to really take it all in the way that we intended. Even half the time when they don't speak Māori, they get this just feeling listening to it. Um, and Tūranga's been saying in some of these interviews, it does just work. The Māori language obviously has those really harsh consonants, and um, you've got this certain kind of cadence to how you sing in Māori that works really, really well in metal, and invokes the sort of reactions that it does.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that also leads me on to a question about how do you guys go about deciding which language goes where in the lyrics, or is it just sort of like an organic thing that just happens naturally?
It is a feeling for the
Well,
most
yeah,
part. Okay, Lewis.
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say every song's different, but yeah, there is like you kind of listen to the instrumental and you kind of go, does this feel like English or Maori? Like when you kind of, sometimes you'll write placeholder lyrics in your head, which are just like nonsense babble, not any language, just like no, 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 just for, placing consonants and stuff. And sometimes it's really obvious when a song's going to be in Maori or English just from listening to it like that. And then sometimes it's harder to tell. And then sometimes those end up being the bilingual songs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
What was it
sense.
you were saying the other day too? It was mostly Phrygian mode stuff.
Yeah, for the music theory nerds out there, that the pattern tends to fall upon Phrygian modes for Māori, that more evil, exotic sound, if you will. Also songs that lend themselves to syncopation because of the way that the Māori language falls, always doing the sort of vowel consonant structure. Da, 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 da. It allows for a, you know, more easily allows for really great rhythmic syncopation with the music to the lyrics as well. So that's something we also notice. I think on this record, Tomanui Tera is a good example. Once people get the full album.
I mean, before Two joined the band as well, like we did it all by that kind of feel, and that's how it ended up happening. And then Two went, "You actually have a method to
A
this." We're
method
like,
to the
"No, we
madness.
don't."
So could you tell us in your own words what this album is about and what it represents for you as a band?
There's a
Ooh,
lot going on in this album. I don't think there's specifically one cohesive theme, as it were, other than the fact, and a lot of the interviewers have picked up on this, that a lot of the lyrical content is relatively serious.
Hmm.
So if there is a one general theme, it's the state of the world right now. But
Right,
who
right.
isn't singing about the state of the world right now? And it's not exactly like we're chucking love songs on our record. So there's only one other thing most people sing about, and it's the state of the world. And there's sort of, whether it's stemming from Lewis's English stuff, which is a lot about either personal experiences or personal opinions towards the state of the world, like A Thousand Friends or Black and Sky, more politically charged commentaries on society, and then the Maori stuff, of course, brushing over either historical events or current day consequences of things like colonialism and corporate
Mhm.
greed and the climate situation. We've got a song about the climate situation. But then, of course, we touch on Maori folklore, which are kind of the more fun ones, so to speak. Lyrically, they're still heavy. Like Ponaturi is about a dude murdering a bunch of sea demons, so like because it's heavy metal sounding. But
Mhm.
in content, it's fun because it is not attached to anything serious. It's just a cool story that I thought would have made a cool song.
Well,
But
and that
other than that,
is,
like a lot of it is quite serious in nature, and it's an opportunity, this album, for us to show like our growth as people. Where Henry turned 25 yesterday, I'm 25, and Lewis must be then what, 22, 23?
he's
Some
I'm
22 at the moment.
22.
He'll be
22.
23 in a month.
Oh, you're nearly 23.
Yeah.
So, we're not 16 anymore, which is where most people think we are by watching Kai Tangata. So it's like an opportunity to be like, we're men now, men who are able to absorb and understand the events of the world at a different level, but also then musically speaking, have been playing our instruments for X amount years longer, and so we're now more refined as whether it be vocalists or drummers, bass player, guitar player, whatever that is. So it's really been an opportunity for us to kind of just showcase where we're at right now, bring people back to sort of where Alien Weaponry is in 2025 and not where they were in
Hmm.
2018. When did Kai Tangata come out? 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think it was
I think
2018. But
2018.
yeah, I mean the other thing, just on the kind of recording side of things as well is, this album I would say is the first album one that we recorded in one hit. So the last two albums we had, the first album we had probably about 4, 5 songs recorded just kind of throughout a couple of years of like the band's very first, few years of starting to get into studios and seeing what it was all about. And then kind of about half the album kind of we went in and did most of it in the studio in one hit. And then obviously the second album, we started recording just before COVID. So that messed everything up. And we had a
Hmm.
couple of singles recorded before then. And so there was still this kind of like disconnect between everything happening. And, we had the same producers on the second album as on the first. But the first album, we had different producers on a couple of the tracks as well. And so this album, one producer, one set of recordings, everything was just done there, and we had the whole picture out in front of us. Um, as well as the fact that now Lewis is 23. His voice is, I would say, this is the first album where his voice is like fully matured
Hmm.
on every single track, and you can really tell when you listen to the whole album as well. It's no longer a kid singing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that creative process. What was it like for you as, when it came to writing the lyrics and then composing the songs?
Yeah, so for a lot of it, the music, like the instrumentals, are done completely separately, and
Hmm.
and when because this was the first album that I had a part to play in, and I sort of changed up how we approached it because I was like, no, this takes way too long to like. We used to sit in the band room and like jam and record, and then have to like filter through all the recordings to find that one riff that we played 7 minutes ago, in like a
Hmm.
10-minute long jam. And at the time, Presonus, the audio company, had very generously let us given us codes to their DAW software, Studio One. And so we'd all had it like freshly installed on our computer, and we are all kind of figuring it out and how to use it. And so then we were like, oh man, now we could actually like record at home. And like Neural, who do like the Neural DSP plugins, like had sent us a bunch of keys for like the amp simulator software and stuff. So like we were able to like move it out of this like very cluttered, sort of inefficient, if you to put it in those terms, way of getting songs out, and being able to like do it now from like the comfort of our own home. And like you can write a bunch of riffs, and then it's much easier to like chop and change them when you see the like you can explicitly see where you had this riff, and you can cut it out and move it here and blah blah blah. And so one of the huge benefits I think that we saw going into this record, at least in comparison to the second record, was the amount of excess we had to choose from. So there was never any songs that were like, for us, felt like we were putting it on there because we had to meet a 10 track, you know, track count on the album, where we all feel like we actually really like pretty much all the songs like on the album, which is a great feeling to achieve. You wrap up the album without feeling like you could have done more, I suppose.
Hmm.
I feel like we can quite confidently say this entire album is the best of our abilities at the time, without sort of any regrets or wishes and wants.
How do you feel like the importance, of course, of bringing the Maori culture into this musical art form. Why do you think that's important to put out to the world in the form of what you guys bring?
Well, I feel like music speaks to people more than a lot of things. And, I feel like if someone just comes up to you and says, hey, you have to worry about this because this is fucked up or whatever, people shut off to that. People go, I've got 10 other things to worry about. Can you just give me a sec, But then if they go and they listen to their favorite band and they find out about that same thing through their favorite band, it's like they're coming at it from a completely different headspace. So I feel like art in general just opens people up um, more to, I guess, new things and new ways of thinking. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you on that because, like you say, I think if somebody just approaches you and is like, "Hey, you got to listen to this and you got to do that," like you say, people are just going to shut down. They're not going to take it in. But like music is so important to a lot of people. So then when you deliver a message through that, I feel it's more impactful. And especially with your music videos as well, they're so beautifully filmed and done and produced that that also puts that empowerment into place as well.
Shout out
yeah,
our camera guy, Piotrek. Films
yeah.
and edits like 90% of our music videos, and he's a big part of at least how those music videos all come together, and he's a bit of a wizard in that sense, which is why we love working with him.
Yeah, no, they're really good. Like that reaction I did to your first single and just the whole storyline you had going and showing, of course, you mentioned the colonialism and the impacts that had on the local tribe and just it just makes you think and it makes you want to learn more about this culture and where you're from and that's somebody who's all the way over here in the States, you know?
Yeah, well, and there is this kind of like strangely universal thing about us being a band singing in Māori, but in some way, shape, or form, there's a lot that people outside of Aotearoa, New Zealand, can actually relate to. So,
Mhm.
and we find it actually, especially touring places like the States, where we're playing in like New Mexico, Arizona, or other parts of the country where there's quite a large like First Nations population. You do get people showing up to those shows because you're singing in Māori about things that they can quite heavily relate to within their own group of people. So, um, it's this like weirdly niche thing that we do, but it has so much that can be translated into other people's experiences, even though they live halfway across the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that one that's also the power of music and in art, as you were saying in general.
Yeah. Well, and it is all an interpretation as well, sometimes we write these songs and, we write it about a certain thing, Lewis has an idea in mind or me or two has an idea in mind for these lyrics. Um, and we see people completely taking a quite a different message out of it. And, and quite a lot of the time it's, we read about what they're experiencing through the music and we go, actually, yeah, it could also just have this kind of double meaning. So there is this kind of really cool thing that happens where people make their own interpretation. It is a little bit like physical art. Um, you know, People go to an art gallery and they go, "What do you reckon the painting means?" And
Right.
obviously the painter had an idea in mind, but then you know the art is how you interpret it as well.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are open to that interpretation because I know that some people aren't and they want you to take it literally, but I feel like if you do open up and you're more accepting of that, it just it opens up the world to more things as well. And like you say, it's just music just has a fantastic way of connecting everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just there's just something really magical about it. And me personally, I don't know what I would do if I've lived all the way up until my life now and somebody came in and switched it off and was like, no more music. I'd be like, you can't do this to me.
Yeah. Nah, that sounds like a pretty bad time, all in all.
Yeah, it does. How would you describe your musical landscape to perhaps somebody who's maybe new to you guys or just in general?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm
Well, it's
always I always get a bit skeptical when people get too crazy about subgenres because I'm of the
Same.
opinion that there are blurred lines in subgenres. But I feel like we draw from a lot of thrash and groove metal, a little bit, from like metalcore and stuff. Even drawing from other genres outside of metal as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, relatively recently, we went on a tour with Gojira, and they had the other opening band that was on that tour was Knocked Loose.
Mhm.
So you do on this album in particular, you do get, I guess, more hardcore breakdowns, which was something we loved about what Knocked Loose did. Like they're a breakdown band,
Mhm.
but man, they go hard, and people love it live, and we just love the kind of energy that it gave. So we've got all sorts of influence from everywhere, including obviously like traditional Maori music as well. So a lot of the ways we sing in these Maori songs are super influenced by quite traditional Maori ways of singing. So and it all just is this melting pot of what we feel like alien weaponry should sound like. Um, and yeah, there's definitely um, I would describe us as possibly more accessible than some forms of metal. Obviously, we sing with harmony, and some people who aren't as into metal, they hear that and they go, "Oh, these guys actually sing," and all of a sudden we go from this screamo band to being something they could actually listen to. So, um, but again, that's the Maori influence and the influence from things outside the metal realm.
Yeah. No, I'm with Lewis on the whole genre, subgenre thing. If I enjoy something, I really don't care what label it has. I'm just gonna put it in my playlist and listen to it. And I think that should be the same for you guys as musicians. And to find there's so much music in this world. There's from pop, rock, whatever you want to, whatever. And you may as well pull that into your own thing if you like it and put it into your own music. And I love when bands do that. And I very much felt that way about you guys. And it's just, I don't know. I'm just not a genre snob, and I don't feel like people should be.
Like
Yeah,
the
well,
thing that ties the alien weaponry sound together is the Māori stuff.
Yeah,
And so what we put behind that is whatever we feel like at the end of the
right.
day. So like it's just some of these interviews have been calling like one of the songs a death metal song, and it's like we're definitely not going into the studio and going, let's make a death metal song or let's make a metalcore song. It's like we just
Yeah.
go, here's a set of instrumentals and we know that Maori thing is our sound and that Maori element, and then as it evolves, it just becomes whatever it becomes. And yeah, one thing we notice is like they start to go, they want to like do the put you in the box thing. And it's like, but that's not the box that we're trying to fill, so to speak. All that we know that makes our sound is the Māori stuff. And
Hmm.
whatever supports it is whatever supports it that we think sounds cool. Whether it's really extreme vocals like on Taniwha or like Te Riri all have like really extreme vocals, or it's the really melodic stuff, which are actually also on those songs, ironically enough. Whatever it is to create the song that we like, it's the Maori part that draws us to our crossroads, I suppose, or the peak of that mountain. And whatever is beneath it is just whatever. And so that tends to lead people to being like, well, I don't know what they are. They thrash or they groove or they this. So who cares?
Right.
We're alien weaponry, you know.
Well,
That's all you need to know. Do you like our music or do you not?
yeah.
Exactly. And that's how I go into music, and that's how I've always gone into music, is just if I listen to something and I enjoy it, then I'm going to listen to it again, and I'm going to
Right.
find out what else that this band has, and do I care that it doesn't all sound the same and in some same sort of box? No, because I like when bands experiment outside of that, you know, as long as there's, like you say, you have the Maori thing that's connecting everything. As long as there's like maybe one element that is like, this is alien weaponry, yet we're still going to push the boundaries and do something different. That's what I love.
Yeah, and I feel like subgenres were kind of created by people who aren't really the artists anyway. You know, it's more of a like ease of organization tool,
Yeah.
other than, you know,
Yeah, well, it's so you can do a quick Google search and find 10
yeah.
best thrash metal bands of this decade.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. Do you have any rest of year plans that you can perhaps share with us?
Well, we're about
Yeah,
to
well,
embark on a New Zealand headline tour in 3 days and 2 days.
Nice.
Actually, we leave home for it. Supported by our good friends in Shepherd's Reign. So, quick shout out to Shepherd's Reign because if anybody likes alien weaponry, you have to listen to Shepherd's Reign. They are another Polynesian heavy metal band from New Zealand, but they are actually Samoan instead of Māori. So they sing in Samoan language as well as English. So they do a very similar thing to us, but they just have a lot more guitar solos. So for all those guys out there who are like, alien weaponry needs guitar solos, go and listen to Shepherd's Reign. But so that's our current only plans, which takes us right up to the album release. And then currently we're sitting in this void of expect something, but we won't tell you what from our higher ups
Hmm.
behind the scenes. So fingers crossed we'll have some more news for people come the album release.
All right. Well, that sounds incredible. And I hope you guys have a fantastic time on your headline tour. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with me today. And do you have any last words for anybody who is watching this interview of just thanks or anything like that?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
big
thanks for
thanks.
supporting us, and please continue to do so. We appreciate it.
Hope you all enjoy the new album.
Yeah, and we always get this question and sometimes messages after we've played somewhere. Oh, I didn't realize you guys were playing in my hometown. Keep an eye on our socials. If you want to come to a show, that's where it's going to be. Sometimes you got to scroll down a little bit, but that's where it's going to be. And then there's obviously the Alien Weaponry website as well, which you can find everything on. So, yeah, love you guys.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Of course, guys, I will leave the pre-order link to the album down below in the description, along with all of the links where you can find Alien Weaponry at all of their social medias, everything like that. Again, guys, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having us.
No worries. It's been
Thank
great.
you.
But don't forget to like and subscribe to become a Taurian. Speaking of becoming a Taurian, all of my social media links and my Discord link are down below in the description. We'd absolutely love to have you come hang out in the Discord community, and I will see you guys in the next video. Rock on.